The great secret of your human existence, indeed the great secret of the many journeys you have taken, is that they have existed nowhere save within the movie screen of your own mind. Hello friends, this video is going to be a summary of Lesson 1 in the Way of Knowing, and this is Book 3, the last book of the Christ Mind Trilogy, or The Way of Mastery, by John Mark Hammer, or Jayem. And these books are Jesus or Jeshua ben Joseph channeled through Jayem. There's a quote from Walt Whitman saying, "I was simmering, and then Emerson brought me to a boil." And this is how I feel about these books. They are amazing and life-changing, and they provide exercises and knowledge to help you remember what you really are. One with the Father in Jesus' words, or one with the creative source, one with the love light within all things. But these videos I'm making, this series, don't replace the full lesson, so I highly recommend you check them out. They're available free on his YouTube channel, at Way of Mastery Official, or online at womlibrary.com. And both of those sources have the audio, the original audio of the channelings. Lesson 1, he starts out by saying the ego has never truly existed, just like that opening quote talked about. It only, all these experiences of many lifetimes have only happened in the own movie, in your own mind. So it is an illusion. The separation is illusion. Really, it is all one. And that you have never lived a life, but life lives you. Life lives through you. Knowledge, then, consists of the crystal clear awareness that while creation streams forth from the mind of God, you cannot find the place that a separate self began. And you have absolutely no knowledge of where your end will be found. In truth, you do not know what is going to unfold in the very next moment of your experience. This can only mean, since you do have a next moment, that something else is living you. He then goes through the 4 keys which lead to the kingdom, and which he shared in previous lessons in the other books. The first one being desire, the next one being intention, the next one being allowance, and the last one being surrender. And he says you use these same keys to create illusion. So to return back, we just backtrack and use these same keys to return to our remembrance of the kingdom, or in other words, the awareness of the Creator in all things, the awareness of oneness. Then he says how the last key, surrender, is incomprehensible. It cannot be described. It is beyond all language, all theologies. And surrender is the completion of all the keys. And even though it is indescribable, ineffable, it can't be talked about, it can't be understood mentally, it can be lived and it can be known. It can be experienced. No longer is there an obstruction to the flow of experience. No longer is there a self-seeking God. And where and when that self has been surrendered, the mind awakens to the simple reality that there is only God, and you are that one. This idea comes up throughout the lesson, is that really we must stop all obstructions from the awareness, from that flow of life flowing through us. And then you realize that you're no longer a self-seeking God, but that you are one with God. He then goes on to describe what we are in this experience. It's really God creating herself so that she can experience herself. We are God looking back at God. You are then the very process whereby that one who alone is without a second creates the temporary form through which that one apprehends and knows itself. You are that one that is the perfect effect of mystery, that would pour forth of itself and make visible what was invisible, to birth through time and form that which cannot be contained within it. For love is unfathomable. You cannot control it. Love is vast beyond all measure. You cannot contain it. Love cannot be possessed. It can only be allowed. The awakened mind simply abides in perfect knowing and no longer obstructs the flow of feeling, of thoughts, of perceptions, of experiences. It no longer tries to make things different than they are. So then how do we abide in this way of knowing? To fully accept that not one trace of your seeking has ever brought you closer to reality, that not one modality has ever held the power to bring you closer to God, that never could it have ever been truly possible for you to make progress towards the consciousness of God, for all the while you have been the one you are seeking, pretending to be a seeker. And for what reason have you entertained the thought of separation? The reason is simply this, to do it. For the mind of God does not deny any possibility, for it sees nothing that can obstruct the purity of its own nature. This is a really important point, I feel like. It's saying, it's fully realizing that all of your seeking, all these modalities, the different meditations, all these different books, all these different seeking and seeking and seeking has never brought you any closer to the truth, to God. Because you are it already. And when you realize that, that's when you abide in knowing. So there's never any progress towards the consciousness of God or Christ consciousness. It is what you are already. But that you've decided to pretend to be a seeker just to experience it. So really you are God seeking God. The thirst that you have felt for God is God's thirst for herself. You are literally the field of awareness of God in which God has awareness of himself, because you are the power of God. And only by that power have you ever been able to be aware of something that has appeared to be other than God, for even fear rests in love. For in truth, and please listen carefully, suffering does not exist. Only the reality of love can exist. And you are that one with the power to be awakened to your true nature, right now, right here. Indeed, only when you have given up attachment to the modalities, the meditations, the prayers, the theologies, the textbooks, only when you have given up attachment to all form and merely make the decision to abide in the simple knowledge that you are that one, only then does knowledge permeate your awareness. If there was something you had to do to get God, then God is apart from where you are. Yet it is the very love of pure consciousness that gives you the power to perceive that there is something you must do to get to God. And therefore God is always present. If there was truly some form of meditation that could enlighten you, it would mean that you were truly apart from God at some point. But it is not possible for that one to be separate from itself. Allow, then, the mind to rest in the simplicity that what is true has been true always, and that where you abide you are merely the manifestation of that one showing up as a man or a woman. I feel like here he's describing basically that satori, that instant enlightenment moment, that full realization you fully have. It's like, oh, I am that one. I am this. I was just confused before. I was looking, I was searching constantly, trying to find some magic key, but then realizing that there is nothing but this one, and therefore I am part of this one, and then you surrender to that one. It's a complete 180 switch from the normal thinking and seeking of the ego. It's like, oh, I need to do this, I need to practice this daily, I need to achieve, I need to gain. It's like you are that one already. And this is so beautifully said by him, this past quote. And therefore, really, it's pretty simple. That true knowledge is the simplicity of the awareness here and now of the one, unobstructed, aware just of this moment, and abiding in that peace. The way of knowing, then, is a way of unobstructed feeling, unobstructed allowance, not only of what is around you, but what is arising from within you. He then speaks of so-called others, because really there is no other. All is one. Encounters with other people. And he says all attempts to awaken, help awaken the sonship, is really the one talking to itself. So he says right now he is merely talking to himself, because there is only one true self. All that is taking place in all attempts to awaken the sonship is that that one is speaking to itself. It speaks of awakening because another aspect of itself, another wave from the ocean, is yet pretending that it has truly caused itself to lose awareness. The truth that is true always, as he says often in these books, is that you and the Father are one, or that there's really just one spirit. So therefore, when you see anyone else, you're just looking at yourself, the true self. And then he makes a very clear statement on saying what the purpose for any of your brothers or sisters are ever for. They're never for you to gain something, for you to get love from them, for you to use them in some way. There's only one purpose. There's only one thing that your brother or sister can be for, to be that which God looks upon and sees only himself. A brother or sister is in the field of awareness you have learned to call your own for one reason: to be loved, to be celebrated, to be joined with, to create and extend the good, the holy, and the beautiful. And then he goes on to say a very important point, which is it doesn't matter if they don't get it. If they're not picking up what you're putting down, it doesn't matter. Does this mean that if you look upon another that they ought to get it? Not at all. For that one that you are manifesting through them may very well choose in its infinite perfect freedom to remain wholly insane. And so what? Nothing can prevent you from looking with love and allowing the play and display of form to continue its dance. Birth and death, joining and distancing, creating and dissolution. All things that can be experienced must finally be allowed to flow without obstruction within your mind. Then he goes back to saying the simplicity of the truth of knowing is really just being in the moment, not obstructing any feeling, anything that arises within you or outside of you. Being silent, being still, and then you will know without a doubt the will of the One, or the will of my Father. There could be no greater joy than to arrive in each moment with nothing to be acquired, nothing to be accomplished, and nothing to be resisted. When resistance has been released, through the simple choice to release it, you will discover and know that all along, in reality, there has only been God. How, then, does one live as they abide in true knowledge? One could simply answer, any way they want to. For in unobstructed life, that one is allowed to inform your choices. There is no longer anything you believe you need, nothing you believe will add something to you. For who by taking thought, who by taking action, who by belief in theology has ever added even 1 inch to their stature? If you are already this infinite, eternal, perfect spirit, this perfect love light, what could you do that could make it better, that could add to it? So that's where that peace comes from. It's like, I am already this one. I am already this perfect love. And all I wish to do is extend that love, to express it. And he says this oneness, the sonship, isn't just humanity, it is everything. It's the rocks, it's the plants, it's the earth. Everything is this one spirit. And he reminds us that suffering is really just the belief that you are separate and alone. Remember that your suffering has come only from the illusion that you are a separate body-mind, subject to the ravages of time, the insecurities of the world, surely to become a victim of death. The whole time, in reality, you are the power by which you chose that belief. Does this mean that you can merely say, I am awake now and I don't need to feel that feeling that's coming up? Not at all, for love does not resist anything. Love embraces all things. Love desires all things. Love awakens to the truth that only God is, and God would embrace the totality of his creation through you, as you, in you, and for himself. For there is no difference between God and you. You are that one. Then he returns to this idea of desire, which he shared in other lessons in the previous books. And he says, how does an awakened one live? And he answers, however they want. So then he poses that question to us. What do I want? For here in perfect surrender is the mind returned to pure desire, not the desire to gain for a separate self, but that which expresses the totality of God. What do I want? Is the question that God asks himself as you. Yes, it does mean you are perfectly free to enjoy the field of desire. Are you capable of knowing what you truly want? Absolutely. Once you decide that you are not what you once believed you were. This requires only the decision to recognize that nothing can exist save God, and that, therefore, you are that one. You are whole and free, now. Then he shares how his life on earth in a body, in a man's body, was a journey back to God, to remembering God. And he finally realized, what else is there but the love of God? That was a realization when he became awakened. And then he says, what do I want? That desire. He was in that field of desire. And he realized he wanted to demonstrate to his brothers and sisters the unreality of death. Therefore, the drama unfolded that we're all so familiar with. He was just wanted to demonstrate that death is not real, that love is only real. He then touches on depression as an interesting definition of it. All depression stems from resistance, the obstruction of the flow of awareness, the attempt to limit the unlimited. And I'll end with one more quote. The mind that allows all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, is all things. And yet, though you will seem to live, yet you will not live. But that one alone lives as you. You are free. You are vast. You are without birth and without death. You are as I am. You are the awakened one, the anointed, the Messiah. You are the gentle touch of love in a temporary illusion, attempting to be other than love. And why not? It's all a simple game, a simple play, an innocent illusion. And he ends by asking, what do you want? Do you want to continue the ridiculousness, he says, and have your allegiance to fear? Or will you choose love? What do you truly want? And the freedom and peace that comes with love. And he says, want only freedom and you shall have your desire. Lesson 1 to the way of knowing. It's good. I'm excited for the other lessons. Thank you.